I was just finishing editing and publishing my first video, Mazes and Labyrinths. It's out now if you want to check it out. Going along with what I talk about in Mazes and Labyrinths, I wanted to do today's vlog video based on one of the books I mentioned within that video. That book is The Name of the Rose. So this book is actually a really big part of my life right now. I'm working on a master's thesis in English education in the University of Puerto Rico. I'm focusing on the Labyrinth library that appears within the novel. Now, this novel was written by the Italian author Umberto Eco in the year 1980, and by 1986, only 6 years after publishing, it was already recognized as a bestseller. Not only that, there was already a movie out with Sean Connery and Christian Slater. The book itself, it's about a 7-day adventure. It was written by Atzo of Melk. He's just like a 15, 16-year-old boy, and he's going through all of these changes. In that way, this novel is kind of a coming-of-age story for him because he's dealing with the reality of an impending apocalypse, essentially. Umberto Eco did this on purpose so that we could go into this medieval world with the character. Now, I'm not saying that Umberto Eco created a new medieval world. This isn't a fantasy. It's a highly attuned historical fantasy. If you read the book, it is not a super easy read. This isn't traditional young adult books. It's not Percy Jackson. It's not even Game of Thrones. This book is heavy with content, and it's very dense with historical material of the time. Actually, the read is really good. It's not a fast read. One has to take their time with it because it's so dense with material. You know, Umberto Eco explores the different themes of symbol and symbolism, how we judge our lives based on the events that happen around us, in the sense that we try to interpret and try to give meaning to our world through what we see. The library Labyrinth is in the 3rd floor of an extra building called the Edificium. Now, within the very first chapter, even before Atzo and William are arriving at the Abbey, Atzo sees the Edificium and he starts creating this entire explanation as to how the Edificium, how this giant magnanimous building, which was there before the monastery, before the Abbey, and, you know, he mentions giants, he mentions paganism. All of this is filled with such amazing detail and symbolism that, like the title suggests, The Name of the Rose, you could interpret it so many ways. Actually, that was the reason why Umberto Eco chose to name the novel The Name of the Rose. The fact that it's called The Name of the Rose, he mentions in his postscript, is that the word rose, the rose itself, it carries with it so much symbolism that it practically has no meaning. The labyrinth represents the world as a whole, the known world for medieval Europe as a whole, having volumes and volumes of books. The main message of this novel is not the labyrinth. It's not we had an impending apocalypse and something happened and it was horrible and there was murder and there was crime and there was blood and there was accusations and all these exciting stuff. Our world is filled with stories. Books talk of other books. They speak of other books. We base our experiences on other experiences. We're influenced by others. We're influenced by things we see, by things we read. We become what we surround ourselves with, and that is what this novel is trying to tell us. It is a book about books, and it's a story filled with stories. Atzo of Melk is listening to all of the older monks around him tell their stories, tell where they're from, what happened, how is the world built, when is the world gonna end, why hasn't it ended already, what they think of the papacy, what they think of what is happening in their world. Like I said, it's a slow read. One has to take their time with it, appreciate every detail. I've read it about 3 to 4 times, and it's still, you know, every time I come back to it, I still discover new things. If you don't like reading, then probably, and when I say you don't like reading, what I mean is that if you don't like staying with a book for a long time and absorbing the information little by little, this not only has an interesting prologue, but Umberto Eco based the entirety of this novel in other things. For example, Jorge Luis Borges and his book Labyrinth, it echoes in Echo's book, along with several other elements. For example, when this was translated into a movie, the one I mentioned with Sean Connery, the gothic elements are much more profound. The darkness in the scenes, the incredible contrast between light and dark in certain moments, it has an impact on the person who is watching it and is literally engaged in the movie itself. The labyrinth in the movie is much different than the labyrinth here. Here the labyrinth feels very claustrophobic. It's really closed in. It feels like a cave in a third floor, like a cave in the sky, essentially. But in the movie itself, the labyrinth is more stretched out. The stairs have these incredible falls that feel like looking down into an abyss because they go inside at night, and it's very interesting. It's pretty amazing, the implications of it, how everything connects together. One last thing I wanted to say about this book: Umberto Eco, he based his two main characters, William and Atso, in two other famous detectives. See, William, the principal monk, the teacher, he is actually a medieval detective. The reference is William of Ockham, and his full name is William of Baskerville. So if you know the Baskervilles or the Hounds of the Baskervilles, then you know that the reference is immediately Sherlock Holmes. And if you play with the letters in Atso, or you pronounce it Atson, how it was originally meant to be pronounced, it sounds like Watson. So Atso is based on John Watson. You have a minotaur, you have a blind monk who is essentially the monster within the library. He is ruthless in the way he captures, everyone's imagination, how he manipulates an entire group of monks looking for an answer. It is an amazing story. I'm surprised that it doesn't get any more praise, it doesn't get any more recognition. And actually, even the fact that I read a lot, if my professor would never have told me of this novel, I never would have discovered it. I didn't know it existed, and it's really well done. The connections one can make to mythology, folklore, to medieval history, and to modern contemporary culture, and see the implications of this novel. Dedicate the time to read it. If you love history, if you love mythology, if you love Christian history especially, it is very worth it. I really enjoyed it. If you're getting into reading and you're getting into a deeper side of reading and the implications of it, then Umberto Eco is the person for you because of how symbolism works. Many of us love how symbolism works. All of our favorite things in pop culture have these incredible implications in their universes. So Umberto Eco just took what we usually associate with things and turned many of the symbols in on their heads. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back next week with, I'm not sure yet, either a movie review, a book review, or what I'm usually trying to do with this channel is to not so much talk about me, maybe some me would slip into it, reading, writing, towards watching movies, and the study of history and mythology. Essentially, that is me in a nutshell. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like. It would help out the channel a lot. It would help me out a lot. Leave a comment down below. Have you read The Name of the Rose? Would you be interested in reading it? Follow me on Instagram. The link is down below. And, have a good day. Peace.